needless to say, has a very, very busy schedule, and we want to be mindful of that schedule this morning. So I'd like to welcome everyone. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend, and happy Easter to those who celebrated. I can't think of a better way to start the week than right here with the New England Council, and I'm glad that so many of you agree with me. Our annual breakfast with the governor has become one of our most popular and well-attended events of the year. And needless to say, today is no exception. I want to begin by thanking the very generous sponsor of today's program, Amazon. I often take a moment to give some background. Go ahead, if you want to applaud, you can. They are our sponsor. I often take a moment to give some background on the sponsor company, but I'm not sure that's necessary in this instance, as I would venture a guess that a good number of people in this room return home to an Amazon package on their front steps today, and I am one. We are fortunate to have Jerome Smith, Dorchester, Amazon Head of Community Engagement for New England and Canada. He serves on the New England Council Board of Directors. And today we're also joined by his colleague, Christina Fisher, Senior Manager for Public Policy in the Northeast, who will introduce the governor in just a few moments. Before I hand it over to Christina, I did want to flag a few other upcoming New England Council events, as we have a very busy spring planned. Next week, we'll hear from two members of the New England Congressional Delegation. Congressman Joe Courtney of Connecticut will join us on Monday for a program similar to this, and then Representative Stephen Lynch, my congressman, will be our guest at a breakfast in Washington, D.C. Later this month, we'll be in Providence for a breakfast with Senator Jack Reed. Then we'll kick off May in Burlington, Vermont, at a breakfast with Senator Peter Welch. And of course, always in May, we look forward to 2026 Washington Leaders Conference. There's still time to register to join for truly a two-day jam-packed days of information, programming, networking, and opportunities to, needless to say, connect with policy makers. I also want to mention that this summer will mark the second year of the New England Council Fellow Program. As you may know, we've launched this program last year in recognition of our 100th anniversary. And needless to say, we are thrilled to be able to expand the program this year to provide funding to a total of 12 organizations, 2 in each New England states, to support the hiring of summer fellows. I believe the 2 organizations selected to host a fellow in Massachusetts this summer are represented here today: the Freedom House in Dorchester and the Healey House in the South End. They are truly incredible organizations doing very important work in our community. We're looking forward to working with them in the coming months and meeting the young adults who they have selected to serve as their fellows. Today, we are honored to be joined by a truly remarkable leader in the Commonwealth, and that's the Honorable Governor, Maura Healey. I thank you again for joining us this morning, and now I'm pleased to turn it over to Christina Fisher of Amazon to give a worthy introduction to our governor.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, okay, that's a lot. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm truly honored to introduce the governor. I also want to express our deep appreciation to the New England Council for your invaluable role you serve as the connective tissue of the region, convening leaders and fostering collaboration. Thank you for the opportunity to be here together today. 2 years ago, at this very podium, I had the same opportunity to introduce Governor Healey. A lot has changed at Amazon since then. When I last spoke here, Amazon employed about 18,000 people across the Commonwealth and about 35,000 across New England. The numbers today tell a different story. Now, in Massachusetts, we employ over 23,000 people and over 41,000 across the region. That's real, meaningful growth, representing real families, real careers, and real investment in the region. We've also expanded our footprint. 2 years ago, Governor Healey had just joined us for the grand opening of our first robotics fulfillment center in North Andover, Massachusetts. Since that time, we've now opened 2 more facilities, one in Charlton, Massachusetts, and one in Johnston, Rhode Island. But perhaps the development I'm most excited to talk about today is that we've opened our first operational facility in Caribou, Maine. Caribou sits in Aroostook County, one of the most rural corners of our region, and our presence there represents something meaningful. It signals that Amazon's commitment to New England extends beyond urban centers and technology hubs. Excuse me. And when we invest in our delivery network, we deliver a better experience for our customers while also creating job opportunities and economic growth in those communities. During my previous remarks, we had also just begun deploying our Rivian vans with over 300 on the road in Massachusetts and 75 in Connecticut. Today, that fleet has grown significantly. Now we have over 1,400 vehicles on the road across the New England region, making us one of the greenest delivery networks in the country. So yes, a lot has changed at Amazon. New employees, new facilities, new fleets, and new communities where Amazon is showing up and investing. But let me tell you what hasn't changed: our partnership with Governor Healey. From the moment she took office, Governor Healey has been a champion for business in Massachusetts. She understands something fundamental. Economic development, innovation, and climate action are not competing priorities, they're complementary ones. And understanding that makes all the difference. Governor Healey is a true New Englander, growing up in New Hampshire and now leading the Commonwealth with purpose, pragmatism, and genuine care for the people she serves. But what makes her such a strong partner for the business community is that she gets it. She knows that when businesses thrive, communities thrive. She knows that innovation drives opportunity. And she knows that forward momentum requires collaboration between government and businesses, but also across all sectors, industry, and across the entire region. Under her leadership, Massachusetts has remained a place where businesses want to stay, where workers want to build careers, and where families want to plant roots. She has created an environment where places like Amazon can grow. That's the kind of leadership that attracts investment, creates jobs, and builds a stronger future for everyone. It is my honor and my privilege, for the second time, to introduce the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Governor Maura Healey.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Christina, for the great introduction. Thank you for all that Amazon does and has invested in here in Massachusetts. And you're right, I've been able to get out and see many of your operations and your employees. So thank you for all you do and continue to bring to our state, including boosting Massachusetts leadership in robotics, which has been terrific. You said 2 years. Did anybody else have that thought when Christina said that she did that 2 years ago? Like where you were in the spring of '24? The world we were in, right? Just think about that, right? I mean, okay, so it's against that context I speak to you this morning. Jim, thank you so much for having me back. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your advocacy in Washington and among our sister states. It's all teamwork, it's all collaboration, and you know that better than anyone. I also want to give a shout out to our dear friend Larry. Larry, I know this is the first of these that I've been at without your wife, and I think of you and her this morning. And I want to thank the entire team at New England Council for your partnership with my office, my team. And speaking of my team, as is always the case, it's not just me who shows up. Most importantly, it's all the people doing the work. So we've got our Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs, Rebecca Tepper, our Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development, Lauren Jones. We have our Secretary of Veterans Services, Eric Goralnik. He is fantastic, just joined us after the wonderful start that John Santiago gave us Eric's come in from Brigham and Women's. He's an ER doctor, Naval Academy grad. Really pleased to have Eric on board. I see familiar faces in the room. You'll connect with Eric, I know. We also have our GM and Interim Transportation Secretary Phil Lang, our new Secretary of Housing and Livable Communities, just a dynamo, taking over for Ed Augustus, who gave me 3.5 years of incredible service launching housing construction around the state. He's gone on to be a banker, so we'll look to get his money somehow in finance, or I will at least. But we have a wonderful new Secretary of Housing and Livable Communities from the great city of Lawrence. Juana Matias is also here this morning. And I also see our great leader of Mass Development, Ajit Bal, is here as well. We've got folks from Massport. By the way, kudos to Massport and the TSA workers. I'm pretty proud that Boston, you know, you looked across all that happened. It's a credit. It's a credit to Rich Davey and the team over at Massport, and a credit to those federal workers, those TSA workers who stayed on the job and felt the support, I think, of all of us in Massachusetts, and as a result, we didn't see those wait times and those disasters that were experienced in other airports. So I just wanted to shout that out while I look over there and think of that. So good morning to all of you. Isn't it nice the snow is finally gone? I hope everyone had a happy Passover, a happy Easter. I'm looking forward to the spring. I'm looking forward to the summer. I'm looking forward to all the great things that we're going to celebrate this year. Dusty's going to be busy. We have Sail Boston. We have Massachusetts 250. We have FIFA World Cup. There's all sorts of great, the Red Sox finally won again. They're back on a winning streak. There's a lot of, Celtics are coming, right? This is great, right? We got a lot to look forward to. And part of what we're going to be really focused on, as I mentioned, is Massachusetts 250, celebrating 250 years of this great country and this great place that really gave birth to America from the Revolution on. So I just want to say that, but I also want to say in this moment, I want you to be proud not just of 250 years ago, I want you to be proud of Massachusetts innovation today. Do you all watch Orion, the Artemis 2, right? I think it's going to hit the circle around today, maybe, right? Okay. So, get this, Massachusetts played a huge role in that. The laser communication system, you know who did that? MIT Lincoln Lab, okay? The entire laser communication system, Massachusetts made. The navigation systems and software, Draper Lab, Massachusetts made. Even those orange spacesuits, did you see the spacesuits? It's unbelievable. It's an entire life support and communication system within each of those suits. Incredible feats of technology. Do you know who designed them and made them? A company in Worcester, Massachusetts, David Clark Company. So as we think about the past, just remember, we have been on a trajectory of innovation from the very beginning. That continues today. And not only did it power the creation of this great country 250 years ago, it powers so much of what has come out of this country today. I talk about defense sector, I talk about life sciences, health, so much right out of Massachusetts. You remember when President Kennedy said the words, "We choose to go to the moon, not because it's easy, because it's hard." Remember that? Well, nobody remembers what he said after that. What he added was, quote, "because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills." That's the whole sentence. And more often than not, the best of our country's energies and skills are Massachusetts made, okay? If you take nothing else from this morning, I want you to take that. I want you to take that. And that's what we draw on now. That's the Massachusetts differentiator as you look around this crazy, hectic, chaotic world that we're in right now. Just remember that. And make no mistake about it, I know these are challenging times. There are all sorts of headwinds coming our way. You know, specific attacks on our ecosystem coming after colleges and universities and research and science, right? These cuts don't help anybody. Tariffs hurt everybody, right? We're still battling inflation. And now we've got a war that's costing us $1 billion a day that will have to be paid for on top of the $1 trillion taken out of healthcare systems in the U.S. So I understand it's not an easy time, but I also know we're New Englanders and we're Massachusetts, okay? We're resilient, we're gritty, we're tough, we're about innovation. And when the going gets hard, as it did 250 years ago, we got after it with energy, with skill, and with hustle. You know, last October, looking at where we were, we made a decision, my administration, to lean into our defense industry. And we launched a program called SHIELD. Some of you were in the room for that. SHIELD, it stands for Strategic Hub for Innovation, Exchange, and Leadership in Defense. It isn't just a program, it's a signal that Massachusetts is all in on the defense sector. And why do I say that? I say that because as we speak, Massachusetts is already one of the top 10 states in defense in the entire country. It accounts for $48 billion of our state GDP, roughly 7% of the total, roughly equivalent to our life sciences footprint in GDP production in Massachusetts. So we recognize that national security and our defense industry and the economic growth from the defense industry and all the technologies, by the way, associated with that and supply chain associated with that, these things and our own economic growth go hand in hand. So we leaned in. We leaned in because in Massachusetts, as I mentioned with Artemis, we've got the best tools, we've got the best science, and we've got the best talent to help safeguard the nation, to better protect the men and women who serve, and to create a lot of jobs in our state through this. Through SHIELD, we're aligning things like advanced manufacturing, applied research, and emerging technologies from AI to cybersecurity to next generation energy systems into one cohesive strategy. What we're building is the next chapter of our legacy, a defense ecosystem that's innovative, resilient, and coordinated. I mentioned that to folks. How many of you had heard about SHIELD? Like, oh, all right, that's not bad. But I'm glad I mentioned it because I want everybody else to know about it, okay? I want you to know about it for two reasons. One, this is the way we think as a team, okay? What's next? Where do we got to be? You know, those hockey players, I was a basketball players, but the hockey people talk about going to where the puck is, where it's going to be, right? That's what we do in Massachusetts. We lean into this space because we know today's wars are fought at a keyboard. Some of the many technologies that we apply in the defense industry are applicable in marine technology, in climate technology. All these things homegrown here, and I'm looking at our wonderful admiral from Mass Maritime Academy who would attest to that, given your leadership in marine technology and in climate technology, and of course our national security. So I mention it for that reason, because it's a mentality I think that we need as a state. Where do we need to go next? Where do we need to be? And what areas do we need to lean into? And also I wanted you to know that because it is, right now, a growth opportunity, one that we're seeing unfold every single week. We see companies coming for that industry. We see companies coming to Massachusetts in other industries as well, moving here, growing here. If you look at just the past few weeks, Whoop expanding 600 jobs in Kendall Square. AI and quantum computing leaders from around the country and the world are coming here. NVIDIA, Anthropic, Lovable. You haven't heard of Lovable, but they are a massive AI company from Sweden, and they've decided to make Massachusetts their US headquarters. XAI and SHIELD AI. Now, Shark Ninja. How many of you have Shark Ninjas in your home? Okay, I know I do. I have a great hairdryer. It cost a lot, but it was worth it. Shark Ninja in Needham, Massachusetts was just named one of America's fastest growing companies. JP Morgan Chase is going to anchor our new South Station Tower with 1,000 employees. JP Morgan Chase will anchor another, P&G Gillette, $1 billion in South Boston and 750 jobs. GE Aerospace, a $42 million investment in Lynn, 80 more jobs. Vulcan Forms, a metal manufacturer, opening a third factory with 100 new hires in Devens. Our new tax credit awards range from Blue Triton, which is a bottle maker, adding 52 jobs in Taunton, to Affordable Interior Systems, a furniture maker in Leominster, investing in 74 full-time positions. I just mentioned that because these are important things to know. Companies are coming here. There is growth here. People want to be here in Massachusetts. And some of these companies aren't new, but we should always shout them out. Last week I stopped down at New Bedford. I was at Titleist. Did you know that the world's top ball, it's the top ball count since 1949. Those Titleist balls, you know they're made right here in Massachusetts? Right, so think about that the next time. By the way, I stocked up on a lot because my golf game is off and I tend to lose balls. But look, I just mentioned that because I want you to have a sense of who we are as a state. And these are just some of the many, many examples out there. Speaking of jobs and job growth, we're making progress on that front. We just got the new numbers on Friday. You may have seen that for the entire fourth quarter of 2025 and the beginning of this year, we've been adding jobs at a steady clip. In fact, we've created 15,000 jobs since September, and all of those jobs are in the private sector, okay? We saw a slowdown the first 6-7 months of 2025. And no doubt when there were cuts in education and cuts in science and cuts in research, a lot of uncertainty out there. But since September, we've seen things rev up, and they continue to rev up, and that's a great, great thing. Speaking of education, shout out to President of Salem State University, John Keenan, who's with us this morning. So on top of adding jobs, I also note this, our companies are producing. In fact, for much of last year, Massachusetts had the #1 GDP growth in the country. I'll say that again. For much of last year, Massachusetts had the #1 GDP growth in the country. And that's a huge credit to our businesses and our workers across the state. I mentioned the headwinds and challenges, which I'm not going to shy away from, and we haven't as an administration. We also can't let that stop us. We got to keep going. We got to keep moving, one foot in front of the other. And this is what I mean. This is what we're doing. We're protecting our lead in biotech and healthcare. I propose major investments in research, which drives our economic growth and jobs in our state. We're surging to the forefront in applied AI, chasing applied AI, because there's no better place that can take off with applied AI and figure out how to deploy those technologies than right here in Massachusetts. We're also surging in quantum, defense technology, advanced manufacturing, robotics, energy, climate tech, travel and tourism. We've doubled down on our talent advantage with free community college and a plan to have the strongest high school graduation requirement in the country by the start of the school year 2027. We've regained our national lead in every category of student achievement, from math and reading in the early grades to AP scores in high school. And we're also attracting visitors and spending, which is great, from all around the world with the events that we're going to see over the next few months. And that's why our work together has never been more important. How do we together leverage this momentum? I've formed a competitiveness council, as you know, to make sure that my team is working directly with business leaders on strategy. We've been cutting regulations, we've been speeding up permitting, we're taking a look at the whole picture in regimes, and I've said I want reports and recommendations on my desk soon. But above all, we're working together to lower costs of housing, healthcare, energy, and all the high costs that people are struggling with. Because we're a great state. We're a great state, great quality of life, great experiences, great sports teams, great culture. We're a safe state. We're #1 in all the categories that I usually brag about. But we also know our greatest challenge is making it so people can afford to live in this great state. And that's why, notwithstanding any of the trouble coming at us from the federal government, that's the #1 priority, lowering costs for our residents, lowering costs for your employees, and future talent that you want to have come here. I'll talk about housing, because that's one of the biggest drivers. The last 3 years, we've worked to build more and build faster. 100,000 new homes. We cut permitting times. Do you know this? We took state review times from over a year when I started, just down to 30 days for housing. We did a whole bunch of other things. I don't know if everybody's looking at their property to figure out if you could put an ADU in for in-laws or kids, or maybe not kids, but all sorts of things we've done. We've also delivered some relief right now. Got rid of broker's fees for renters. We gave, and are giving right now, first-time home buyers $25,000 towards down payments and a lower financing rate. Healthcare. Healthcare, we know this is a major driver. It's blowing state budgets, municipal budgets, company budgets. It's terrible, right? Healthcare's broken in this country. And I said I can't wait for DC to fix it. So I've got a team that I brought together this year, employers, providers, and insurers, and said, get me short-term recommendations on some things that we can do right now, and give me some longer-term ones as well. But we got to figure out new and innovative ways to drive down healthcare costs in Massachusetts. In the meantime, I'm the first governor to cut copays and deductibles. We also found a way, when Trump cut healthcare, we found a way to fund and protect coverage for 270,000 households at the end of last year. We also worked with our insurers. We eliminated prior authorizations for people so that if you're a diabetic, you don't need to wait for insurance companies' approvals to get insulin anymore. And we did this by working with our insurance companies, not against them. So those are some of the things that we're focused on when it comes to healthcare. Transit, how do we lower the cost to get around, okay? I want you to know that Phil's attention, he's worked on the T, he's done the work to get rid of those slow zones. We have a much better T. The bar was pretty low, considering that trains were on fire when I started. That's not a joke, they were. But we've made the investments there, and I think public transit has improved. And we're going to continue to make improvements and investments. We opened up a couple new commuter rail lines. We're investing in new stations. This summer, because we want more people on public transit, and because we want to also say thank you to our riders, because ridership has increased on the commuter rail faster than anywhere else in the country, actually. We're above pre-pandemic levels. But I want even more people taking advantage of public transit. So that's why I've said this summer, we're going to have free Fridays on the commuter rail, and everybody's monthly pass is going to be cut in half, 50% off your monthly pass. And on the weekend, you can come and you can bring someone with you, and they ride for free. So those are some of the things that we're looking to do to make it easier and more affordable for families to get out and have fun, and for people to get to work. I want to talk about energy, not because I'm looking at Lisa Whelan, though I am looking at Lisa Whelan from National Grid. I can't help but talk about energy, all right? And that was a terrible segue, Lisa, because the first thing I'm supposed to say is that I've opposed big rate hikes. She knows. Look, the bottom line is this, okay? We need more energy in this region. We need more energy in the Northeast. We know that. We need to increase our supply so that we can lower costs. This winter I did all I could. I found some extra money out there so that I could give folks money off of their bills. You know, we got 25% off electric bills, 10% off of gas bills, just a couple months of relief. But we need to do so much more. And that's why I filed the legislation that I filed that will allow us to do things to make our purchase of energy easier and cheaper, to allow us to work as states together to bulk purchase energy in all our forms, and fundamentally to drive costs down. We need to drive costs down. We also need to get more energy in for our economic growth. I talked about at the beginning, Massachusetts, we're an innovation state, right? We need a lot of power. We need a lot of power to compute all the things that we want to compute. Look at Amazon and what's going on in your facilities, right? And we think about applied AI. We think about the work that's going on in science and research right now. We need more energy, not less energy. And so that's why my strategy is all the above. Tepper strategy, all the above. And we're getting after it. Last month, I signed an executive order. It puts us on a course for 10 new gigawatts of energy into our state. Now, nobody other than Rebecca and Lisa probably know what that means, 10 gigawatts. It means enough power for 2 million homes. We're a state of 7 million people, okay? So if we get enough power for 2 million homes, not people, 2 million homes and businesses, that's a big deal. I set a big goal, and we're gonna meet it. We're gonna meet it because we have to, because we've got to save people and businesses money. By the way, it'll save them $10 billion. So the actions that I set out in my order are focused on growing energy sources. By the way, homegrown energy sources. I think we've seen in the last 6 weeks the problem we have being so dependent on world oil markets, haven't we? I mean, you're seeing it at the pump yourselves. So the actions are, how do we quickly as possible bring online more solar, wind, geothermal, in addition to existing energy sources? We want to get another 5 gigawatts of storage capacity alone, which will save us money and improve reliability. With energy abundance and energy independence, we can protect Massachusetts from global market shocks. We also did things like working together, passing a siting and permitting reform to speed up energy projects. This is what I mean. If you set your mind to it, we can get stuff done. When I asked Rebecca what we needed to do on how to bring more energy infrastructure online, we knew we had to change the way things were done. We brought together our environmentalists, together with our developers, together with our energy generators, and said, what do we need to do? And guess what? They came to me with a plan. And that's how we were able to get that time from 1 year down to 30 days. Those are stakeholders coming at it, not always agreeing, often not agreeing. But they did then, because they know that's what we need to do. That's the kind of collective action that we need out of the state. It's just an example of what we can do. So that's my all of the above approach, and that's why, folks, when the president tried to kill wind, I said, no, we can't let that happen, and we didn't let that happen. And right now, Vineyard Wind is complete, and it is powering 400,000 homes and businesses off the south coast of Massachusetts. We flipped a switch on hydropower a few weeks ago. 20% of our electricity will now be supplied at a low price from Canada as a result of that affordable hydropower line coming in from Quebec. We've taken a regional collaboration approach, and last week you may have seen that we issued a letter from all New England governors and New York. Did we get New York? New York's on this as well. Yeah, we did. We got New York and New England, okay? All of us together with a joint commitment to explore advanced nuclear energy. Advanced nuclear energy. We got a sub. Wasn't that amazing? Did anyone come for the USS Massachusetts last week, that submarine? You think about what's powering that submarine, and you think about, taking that nuclear power. We could have the same thing powering other things, right? So nuclear power means something different, folks, than it did years and years ago with big nuclear power plants. And it is the future, and that's why I am a strong supporter. We're going to keep working with the legislature on that bill that I filed, as I mentioned, that will also get us energy at lower prices. But we got to keep going. We got to keep going on all of this because it's never been more important for states to build energy locally. And when I think about what's happening over there, I just also, thinking about the USS Massachusetts, it was so moving to be able to be there for that commissioning and then to go on board that boat. That's what they call submarines. They don't call them ships. They call them boats. And to see how these men and women live you were there, Secretary. That was amazing. Bunks, this high, total, with 3 little bunk beds right there, no higher than this. And if you're taller than 6 feet, you have to sleep in a ball. That's just the way it is. I had a newfound appreciation for the men and women who serve, and if I had to do it over again, I would never, ever become a submariner. But I'm glad that people do. But, I think about that because God bless our military right now. As we talk about energy, it's not just the price at the pump. It's the consequences of what I think are failed policies when it comes to the federal government, and no plan and articulation of a plan or relief in sight, it seems. So, right now, I know all of us say our prayers for the men and women who are overseas, who are serving, who are sacrificing for all the freedoms that we enjoy today as they have for the last 250 years, and we pray for their families as well. So in Massachusetts, we're not going to back down. We're going to keep moving forward. We know what works. We know what we need to do to lower costs, to build more homes more quickly, to get energy costs down, and to provide a more stable and competitive business environment. And that's what we're going to continue to focus on. I say that because sometimes I run into folks in these rooms and I say, what do you need? What do you need? And we have the team here for a reason, because we want quick action on things. When you identify things, the team knows to get to it and to get after it, because we need to operate with that urgency, with that hustle for the times that we're in. The times are challenging, and that's why it requires that kind of effort. You're not always going to get what you ask for. I know that. You know that. But we've got to be having that dialogue, and it's got to be quick, and it's got to be fast-paced, because we need to do the work that we need to do to grow our economy, take care of people here in what is a challenging, competitive environment. Let me close with an area that I've been working on a lot with our new fantastic Secretary of Economic Development. Have you met Eric Paley? Yep, he would be here this morning, but he's out hustling for business, which is good. That's where I want him. But Eric's terrific, and he comes to us as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a venture capitalist. He's the one who showed me, as an investor in Whoop, how I can identify my Whoop age, apparently, which is something I shouldn't have looked at. Does anyone have Whoop? I love Whoop. But one thing that we're working on is this. We've made a big push, as you know, to lean into technology as an innovation state. We created the Massachusetts AI Hub to drive research and development partnerships between the private sector, our research institutions, our universities. We created the Massachusetts AI Coalition that tech founders are part of to build community and build momentum in the applied AI space. And we are focused on what do we need to do to make sure that all those bright, talented young people who are in dorm rooms or classrooms right now stay in Massachusetts. So we've been talking with leaders in all of our innovation sectors about this, and that's a theme that comes up again and again. How do we keep that talent right here? How do we keep those young people part of a place where the next generation of founders and innovators want to live and can afford to live? Our schools produce and our universities attract the top talent from around not just the country, but the world. It's one of the biggest competitive advantages that we have. It's a Massachusetts differentiator. But once they graduate, too many are looking for places where their dollar will go further. They're looking for places, frankly, where they can afford to live, raise families, grow, and also have fun and build community. So that's what we've got to do in Boston. That's what we've got to do in Massachusetts. Now, we're looking at every way to get this done and to make Massachusetts as attractive and as energizing for that young talent, to get them to stay right here. And we're not waiting. We're trying new things right away. Just last week, we launched a new kind of partnership. It's an internship program out of Mass Tech. It's in partnership with BU, Harvard, MIT, and Northeastern. It's called Tech Generation, and here's what it does. It combines, it's basically, let's meet the students' needs around employment and job opportunities with their concerns about housing and where they're going to live, and their concerns about how do I build community? How do I find people like myself that I want to hang out with and grow with? So this is what Tech Generation does. If you are an intern in this program, here's what you'll get. You'll have an internship at a company. You'll also live in housing that you can afford, and you'll be with like-minded community. You'll have a weekly program on career development and industry exposure that will help you build a network and launch your career here in Massachusetts. In other words, you'll be graduating through this internship program already enmeshed in and invested in the Massachusetts innovation sector. And I think that greatly increases that person's likelihood of staying right here in Massachusetts, working here and founding their next startup here. We're going to start this summer with 100 students, and we will be looking to grow the program from there. It's just an example of the creative and new innovative ways I think that we need to think and operate as a state. And what I mean when I say we're focused on energies and skills, and I'll add hustle to that. Thank you for the opportunity to brief you all this morning on my view of the world and the Commonwealth of ours and what's happening. Not only what's happening, but where we think to go and where I'm aiming to go with the state. And I couldn't be more privileged or proud to be governor in this great, great place called Massachusetts, and look forward to our continuing partnerships and collaboration. And with that, Jim, I'll turn it back to you.
You hit it all. I guess the big question here for you, Governor, is what advice would you give UConn tonight?
Oh, yeah. I think,
New England.
yeah, I'm always New England.
I
had both teams in the poll, in the brackets, and I was bummed because I didn't buy furniture, but then the women lost, so, but UConn's tough. Michigan's tough too.
I know that.
Michigan's tough too, but Dan
What
Hurley.
kind of answer is that?
Dan Hurley
Very
finds.
tough. I mean, you gotta,
I'm getting to it.
Okay,
Dan
okay.
Hurley finds a way to win, and I think
that's right.
UConn will pull it out tonight.
oh, wow, okay. You talked about housing. You've done a terrific job in growing the housing crisis that we have here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Trying to abate the crisis, not grow the crisis.
Well, I didn't mean the crisis. I'm just trying, Governor, just give me a break here, will you, Governor? We have a bill in Washington filed by our own senior Senator, Elizabeth Warren, with Tim Scott, South Carolina. And that bill received 89 votes, historic in the United States Senate with partisanship and what have you, 89 votes in favor. The House also did a bill. They're a little different. Is there anything in either one that you'd say, hey, we got to push to make sure this stays in?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see something happening in D.C., and I'm glad to see something happening in D.C. on, I think, one of the things that is really tough for people around this country. As I talk to my colleagues, as governors around the state, everybody's challenged by the cost of housing. So that's a good thing. As I looked at the bill, one thing stuck out to me is there's a provision in there that will help convert vacant and abandoned buildings and turn them into housing. I think, sign me up. Anything that we can do to further support that is great. We've done it through state programs here. I'm looking at some developers who've done that work, converting some of our mills. We've got a new program on office space conversion, but that's something we can really lean into, Jim. And I'm going to continue to lean into the things here. I talked about making ADUs something you can do by right. I offered up a bunch of surplus land to developers for housing developments. We've done the permitting work. We created a fund, the Momentum Fund. It's the first of its kind in the country to finance mixed income development. So, those are just some of the things that we've done. We've done a bunch of things in this space. We need to look for more things to do, and we also need to continue to work on the local level because some of this development, so much of it's determined on the local level. But what I say to folks at the local level, and we need to support the communities that are saying yes to housing, because that's how you build vibrancy. That's how you grow an economy. That's how Massachusetts is a place where you can raise your kids and they can raise their kids in Massachusetts and they can find their own success here in the state, and where employers know that they'll be able to land talent here because Massachusetts is an affordable place to live. So we got to continue to push on housing, and I'll certainly work with anyone in DC who's working to build and look to build more housing.
I don't know if you looked at the president's budget that he submitted to Congress this past Friday, but there wasn't any good news for Massachusetts in particular because it's a 10%, 12% cut NIH. we are a recipient of the top 3 in the country in NIH, so that is not good news for Massachusetts. But also in there was a cut for low-income heating assistance, the LIHEAP program, that we rely on so many people here in the Commonwealth and New England. So I don't know what your administration's doing to make sure that your voice is heard there to, needless to say, to stop those cuts.
Yeah. I mean, LIHEAP is sad. Like, who wants to take heating assistance away from seniors? You know, like what? To what end? So, you know, we found ways to continue to try to support people, whether it's around heating, whether it's around food benefits that were cut. You know, I look at the cuts to veteran services, and we've stood proud here in Massachusetts supporting our veterans. So, you know, hopefully, with a free and fair and secure election, we'll see a change in D.C. and cooler heads. Common sense heads will prevail, particularly in the House, and maybe we can see some of these things addressed and righted. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to advocate for science and research. I do it on behalf of Massachusetts because 1 in 9 R&D jobs in the entire country are here. But I do it as an American because when the president defunds science and research and gives it away to China or other countries who are recruiting right now, our scientists, our researchers, you know, the next founders, the next entrepreneurs. We're sitting here in the seaport. 18 of 20 top pharma companies in the world are here in the seaport for a reason. We're the global life sciences hub. That's because there was investment, private investment, state investment through the Mass Life Sciences Center that I continue to support in that industry. So for the president to give that away, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make America, it's not making us stronger, it's making us less competitive, and it's certainly not putting America first. So I talk a lot about this, I talk a lot about it nationally, because I think people got to recognize what's going on. Like, that is not a good place for us to be. And it's why here I've also come forward. As you know, I've got this legislation drive pending. I think it is critically important because no matter how we come out of it, I think that probably the way research is funded in this country and the way it's funded through universities, there may be some changes to that. We got to just prepare for that. And so how do we get after that and get ahead of that? Which is why DRIVE, my legislation, will help make investments both through the state level. I think there's a great ROI for us. If you look at the economic output generated through science and research in this state and what it spins out in terms of new companies and technologies, to say nothing of saving lives. Right? How many people come to Boston with their loved ones, with their kids, who are just looking for that next clinical trial, you know, that next treatment, and just on the holding on to all hope? Why would you want to cut that? That makes sense. So, you know, that legislation that I filed is very important because it makes that investment. It also enables a way for private investment. And I've talked to many people about ways that we can leverage tax dollar and private investment for something even greater, where 1 in 1 is 3 plus. That's what we want to do. So that's what I'm hoping we can get done.
You know, Governor Janet Mills of Maine just initiated a freeze on all new data center construction in Maine until 2027. Is this something your administration or other governors in New England are looking at?
I think everybody's talking about data centers now across the country. I mean, it's the talk. Here's how I look at it. Massachusetts, we need to have data centers of some sort for the kind of economy and innovation economy that we have. When I'm talking about an AI hub, when I'm talking about our AI coalition, when I'm talking about, you know, whether you want it or not, I mean, the compute power and the way that businesses do business now, it's just increasingly energy intensive, okay? It is. And you can ignore it or you can recognize it and deal with it. So we need to find a way to build out the infrastructure that's going to help us get to where we need to be. And there are all sorts of data centers, large and small. I think a concern, and it's legitimate, is what is the impact on residents? What is it going to do in terms of sucking energy off the grid away from them, right, to further and to support a commercial interest? That's a legitimate concern, right? As somebody who protected ratepayers for 8 years for you guys, like, I get that. There's other concerns about the environment that are legitimate, right? About water usage and other things. But I think the best way to deal with this stuff, Jim, is to engage. It's not a blunt instrument of a ban. That's not going to help our economy. That's not going to help our future. So, as always, we enter into these things in the spirit of, let's take account of some of the issues and what we need to do, and not make the mistakes that have been made in other states. In places. There are smarter and better ways to do things, and I know that we're capable of doing that in Massachusetts if we work together, if we talk together, and if we communicate.
I can't think of a better way to end the program. Governor, your time is up.
Right.
Nicer
way of saying that. Thank you.
Yeah. But we have about 2-3 minutes for a quick photo if you want one with the governor, but she's really on a tight schedule. I just want to thank her not only for being here today, but I hear it from so many business leaders that the administration is open to ideas and suggestions, and they're looking for that. So the relationship between the public and the private is extraordinary. And I just want to also add kudos to the governor. She has really done an outstanding job bringing the governors together in New England, whether it's on energy. We were fortunate enough to be part of her initial meeting last year with the New England governors on the tariffs and what it meant to Canada and to the New England states. But she took the leadership role. But this New England governors working together is not by accident. It's the leadership of this governor here, bringing everyone together, trying to find solutions together. So kudos to you, Governor, on what you're doing there. And I just want to thank all of you for being here today, and Amazon in particular for being our host this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.